Hello there everybody, Spider92 aka Nightmare, and welcome back to Rose Guns Days Season 3. Now then, in the last episode, we started going over a plan to try to get Wong's key in order to rescue Zell's father. And, well, we kind of got a bit of an idea, and right now I don't know the entire specifics, but right now, here's my idea of how their plan's going to work. So, last episode, Oliver was... Charles, get the name right. Charles practicing throwing the key. And for some reason, Nina was practicing her shot. So, this might sound stupid, but here's my idea. I have a feeling that Nina... her job is to try to shoot the key out of Wong's pocket, and at the exact same moment, Charles needs to have the key be thrown perfectly back into the pocket, or the fake key. And they've mentioned that this plan is outrageous, so I had to come up with some sort of outrageous method. And that's pretty much all I could come up with, so... yeah. Also, if I do sound a little bit under the weather, I kind of am, but I'm still going to record this because I like Rose Guns Days. It was night, after the people had fallen asleep. Vehicles of a different sort than you usually see during the day raced down the street. It was a series of trucks, distribution trucks. Several of them raced down the streets, which had grown quiet, packed with goods. This was truly distribution. This was how the massive quantities of materials that supported the huge metropolis of Tokyo were transported. My god, that was loud. This was hardly unusual in Chinatown, but tonight there were more trucks going in and out than usual. Cargo was being packed into a massive storehouse. Back when Wong had purchased enough fake soy sauce to overwhelm Rosa's soy sauce, there had been an incredible amount of cargo, but this was even more. It truly was violence in distribution, in quantity, in numbers, that would overwhelm City 23. There's so much! This is the scale of dealing with Chinatown.
Incredible!
Dozens of Japanese businessmen were observing this violence in numbers. Claudia was among them. That hard worker was a member of the Japanese Shop Association. Apparently, that was why she had received an invitation to this. As they watched the overwhelming amount of materials go by, Wong slowly turned to face them and spread his arms. It isn't that surprising, is it? Haven't you ever looked at a world map? China is 25 times the size of Japan. Well, of course, I'm aware that not all of the Japanese receive higher education. Comparing different areas might be difficult for you. He was clearly mocking them. However, the businessmen were still stunned and overwhelmed by the incredible amount of goods. Yeah, you enjoy that power for a little bit for right now, Wong. You're gonna pay for this. Pre-war Japan didn't have any world maps. It was a joke that was believed fairly often at time. Otherwise, wouldn't it be unthinkable for Japan to declare war on America when there was still no end in sight for its war on China? Still, even if you don't understand the numbers, I'm sure you understand what you see. Your national power is hardly anything to be commented upon when compared to our large country. You're an ass. We can't win. Japan can't win against foreign countries. So close. If only you'd understood that before the war. But it still isn't too late. If you now understand that Japan has neighbors who are far superior to it, then you're welcome to join the cosmopolitan world. We understand what you're trying to say. You'll overwhelm everything with your quantity and prices. The end. That's all there is to it. What's the point in telling that to us at this point when we're like candles about to burn out?
Chinese merchants are the best in the world. Do you know what that is? It is because they can interact closely with societies from all over the world, blending in. You see, we're fellow merchants, so we ought to be getting along. However, because Rose Ayabara forced her anachronistic countrymen-first beliefs on you, everything's gotten messed up.
Oh my god.
Until a few years ago, we were able to get along fine, right? I know some of you had dealings with Chinatown. When Tokyo transformed the scorched earth, we joined hands, distributed necessities to the city folk, and revived the city, did we not? At the time, I believe we had a friendship that surpassed the borders of race and nationality. However, Rose took all that away. Her dictatorship in the name of countrymen stole the free market rights that all of you were supposed to have.
How dare you put Rose in a bad light?
Are you really okay with that? Aren't merchants the greatest realists of this era? China, America, Japan, all three countries are mixed together in this new Tokyo. That's the reality of the new Japan that's coming. All Rose Hayabara did was gain temporary support by playing to patriotic feelings of the Japanese, who were grief-stricken from losing the war.
Also, that's a new expression I don't think I've seen on Wong.
She used the excuse of countrymen first to deny reality, trying to turn back the clock to the pre-war days. But we merchants know. Those who go against the flow of time will always meet with destruction. Can't we stop playing along with the anachronistic illusion of the idealistic girl called Rose Hayabara?
When he called Rose a girl, the businessmen all felt as though their hearts had stopped for an instant. In the Japanese sections of C-23, she had been almost deified. Even without going that far, there had been an unspoken rule that those who disagreed with her ideals were unpatriotic. For the first time, they were made conscious of the fact.
We don't think of Japan as a part of China. It's a new land in which lives a new people and new friends. Nothing excites us more than being able to start doing business there. That's why we want to understand the supply and demands of this new land, to make new friends and start new businesses. Please, take another look. See this mountain of goods. No, this castle of goods.
It wasn't just soy sauce. Miso, mirin, katsuobushi, niboshi, konbu, wasabi, and more and more and more. Every Japanese person would gulp those scents. It was a stack of countless good old Japanese ingredients and flavorings. Of course, just like the soy sauce, it would be pretty hard to argue that they weren't inferior. However, now the city folk had in fact accepted bad fake soy sauce, it was pretty clear that they would accept this without trouble. The city folk didn't care about details when it came to taste. They were only interested in what was cheap. And this soy sauce fever was making people hope for over things. Those many fondly remembered ingredients, which might be called the Japanese soul itself, would surely meet with great demand among the Japanese. The real thing would be scarce and expensive, not something that could be sold to the poor. However, since these were cheap and low quality, they were within reach and could sell explosively. And the worst part is, it is kind of an unfortunate truth. A large amount of stuff that's more authentic is very expensive, even in this day and age, to actually buy, versus the cheaply made brands and stuff like that. Because, well, everybody unfortunately prefers cheaper stuff over the more expensive stuff. So, I don't like the way Wong is going about this, but it's an unfortunate truth, and I hate siding with the dude.
We are considering shipping these to all of Tokyo, with City 23 to start. Normally, we would earn more by selling it directly. However, wealth is made to be shared. So, I want to share the profit from this pile of good old Japanese ingredients with my new friends. But if we join with you, we'll have Primavera in our case. When soy sauce started selling, rumor has it President Tokuda joined with you, and Primavera really roughed him up. And that was quite a surprise for us as well. However, we did protect the president, you see. President Tokuda is my friend. I and Chinatown as well will never allow anyone to harm our friends. Also, that rumor about how the president was caught by Primavera and got taught a lesson. That's a rumor Primavera started, you know. It's fake? I did protect him. Protected him from Primavera.
Again, this is why I don't like Wong. He's painting Primavera in a terrible light when their motives are good. They want to try to revive some Japanese culture, but the day and age is just fighting against it. And he's taking full advantage of it.
I said that if they harmed him, the GDS would pay them back in full.
That's why the president is alive, argued Wong. They were vaguely aware that betraying the mafia meant nothing but a death sentence. It certainly was conceivable that the president had avoided death because the GDS had protected him. However, the story wouldn't work for Primavera if it was known that they let him escape because of GDS threats, so in exchange for letting him go, they all agreed to act as though they'd threatened him. Of course, Wong had made this all up. The GDS had never applied pressure in that way. However, it made sense to the businessmen. They nodded to each other saying, yes, that's right.
President Tokuda is still in good health and doing his job, isn't he? Was he missing a finger? Did something terrible happen to someone in his family? Nothing did, right?
Fuck you!
Madam Rose would never do something so cruel.
No. It's because I protected him. That's why he wasn't executed.
Come on, Claudia, you know Rose better than anybody.
See? I do protect my friends. But, I still understand how you all feel. I understand that you're afraid Primavera will do something terrible if you become my friends. So let me make you all a promise. No, not a promise. A prediction, maybe.
A prediction?
Rose Hayabara will retire before too long. When that happens, Primavera will collapse. Those people who say strange, anachronistic things will disappear soon.
How could you possibly? Well, poor bastard has no fucking idea that his plan failed.
It's a prediction! Just a prediction! The problem is what happens next. If Primavera collapses, the swarm of thugs that remain scatter and swagger through the city again. It'll go back to the Calabera, where violence was rampant through City 23. Fuck, I forgot that English. This voice is hard to do. This part isn't a prediction. It's a promise. I promise that my GDS friends and I will protect you in a way that prevents all of those thugs from laying a hand on you. And by that time, the marketplace will be filled with all sorts of products thanks to our massive supply. All of my friends will deal in large quantities of those products, becoming so prosperous that they won't have time to rest. And on top of that, the thugs expelled from Primavera will be too afraid of GDS stores to lay a hand on them. In that case, what will happen to those who don't become my friends? They won't be able to get goods. They won't be able to compete on price. And on top of that, they'll be found by thugs who have nowhere else to go. And have every last drop of blood squeezed out of them.
The businessmen let out groans that were almost sobs, losing their composure. They couldn't think of a reason to reject Wong's offer.
Wang Song. No, you don't need to say anything now. I respect time above all else. I understand its value more than anyone else. So I want to give you all some of that precious thing. Time. I want you to think carefully about whose friend you should be. And when Madame Rose descends from her throne, I'd like to give me your answer. Well, that's that. See you next time.
Jesus. Since Wang was a merchant himself, he knew merchants well. All people are countrymen first by default. They're naturally built to exclude foreigners. Wrenching aside those barriers and pushing inside was the first step towards bringing business to a new country. To do that, you just need to find a type of business among that people where patriotism is weakest and stick to them. And the most convenient targets for that, merchants in the realm of capitalism.
What's wrong with joining forces with Chinatown? Nothing at all. In the first place, it's easier to get stuff from the Chinese. Ever since Madame Rose said to buy stuff from our countrymen, we've just gone with the flow. In the end, that was probably done to private businessmen Madame Rose knew personally.
Rose wouldn't do something like that.
Primavera's just spouting some nice words. She's probably just controlling us to turn money her way and make a killing.
How dare you! That's unbelievably outrageous!
Well, Kurosaki-san, regardless of whether it's just nice-sounding words or not, I think Madame Rose's ideals are commendable. Because of the times we live in, fellow countrymen should help each other out. I think that sounds splendid. But we're merchants. We have to be more clear-headed than anyone else. Like Wang-san said, Madame Rose's ideals are anachronistic. She's turning the pre-war period into an ideal and turning her eyes from reality.
How can you say that when Rose can see reality, see the future better than anyone else?
There's nothing wrong with having people talk about their ideals. We need people like that. I understand that. However, we merchants protect the lifestyles of our countrymen, and as such, we must look at reality clear-headedly and make rational decisions. That's how it is. Face reality, Miss Kurosaki.
You people.
They can't measure anything except money. They call it calm rationalism, but that's ridiculous. That's why they could easily sell their country if money was piled in front of them. They can't see the value in things that are priceless. And the main point is their conceit. The idea that they're more intellectual than anyone else because of their so-called rational decisions for raising earnings. If money was piled in front of them, they'd sell their goods to an enemy nation and sell the secrets of their own country as much as they liked. They truly believed they can continue doing the same business even if all C-23 distribution routes are held by foreigners. Jesus!
That's what they get for acting all intellectual when the fools can't measure value with anything but money. Merchants are such chumps. Did you see that, guys? Did you see that stupid Japanese? Looked like he really thought this was their chance to make it big.
What fools? Whatever happens, they think they alone won't be affected.
Those morons would sell the keys to their wives and daughters' bedrooms if they thought they could earn a little cash. There's thousands and thousands of fools like that around the world. We'll never run out of food. Too bad, Rose-chan. Looks like you're naive after all. You see, unless you tie stupid merchants like this up with money or sticks, they'll sell out their countrymen in a flash. Once I've gained control of all City 23's businessmen, I'll take everything these fools have. Oh, I can't wait to see the looks on their faces. If I could have a drink and gaze upon that while Rose-chan waits upon me, wouldn't that be just splendid? I just can't wait to see how those fools kneel and apologize to Rose-chan. Also, are you watching Little May? This is how kings fight. Do you still have so little faith in me after this?
I'm gonna need some coffee for that voice. Good God. I'm having fun with it, though.
Alright.
Oh. Practicing some fighting? I believe so.
When you kick, you always do it haphazardly, simply relying on force.
Meiju straightforwardly pointed out Oliver's faults as a martial artist, but Oliver wasn't satisfied. Even Oliver was a lone wolf from alleys. A wolf who idolized Wayne. He could brag about surviving with nothing but his... Oh my god, is Meiju actually going to train him? Dude! Hell yeah! He could brag about surviving with nothing but his buddy. He couldn't bear to have his talent criticized.
We will hone it more. Your aim was half-hearted. One more time.
He kind of has a point. Even if he didn't understand what Xiaolon muttered in Chinese, it was easy for him to guess that she wasn't praising his kick.
You must refine it more. Read your target as though hitting a needle point.
Shut up! I kick my own way. If you like those clever acrobatics, do them yourself. I got my pride from living on my own in the alleys. You outsiders can go away.
We are literally trying to help you, boy. My. I do believe he hates me.
Oliver, Meiju-san was kind enough to offer to practice with you.
Sulkily, Oliver wiped away his sweat and silently continued to kick by himself. Oliver would fill an extremely important and difficult role in the plan. His job was to secure the treasure room that Zell's father was being kept in. There would certainly be a single guard staying in front of the door. He had to take that one person down in a single shot without anyone hearing. If the opponent was facing the other way, it might be possible to strangle him, but he couldn't count on that. After all, this would be a guard in the treasure house, which held many of Wong's prized treasures. Even though it was one person, he would probably be tense and waiting. No shit. Oliver couldn't count on him slacking off. It would have to be somebody incredibly powerful, incredibly talented too. Like... knowing how Wong is, he wouldn't put some random guy in there. He would put somebody that was thoroughly trained. I think. It was necessary for him to knock the man out from this front with a single strike. It's true that handguns with silencers that can be used for assassinations exist in this world. However, they don't totally erase the sound of gunfire. Nope, you can still have a slight sound coming from it. No matter how hard they try, they release gunfire more than 70 decibels loud. If that rang through the open area that extended up to the 5th floor, it wouldn't be all odd if someone noticed.
Your best kick is a one-hit finisher. That's the only thing we can use.
I know. That's why I'm training hard and polishing my skills, isn't it?
But why aren't you listening when you're getting precious instructions from Meiju-san?
Zell finally remembered. Oliver had grown obedient lately, and he'd started listening to what Zell said, but he hadn't used to be like that. He was once a blockhead who acted like a lone wolf and never listened to what anyone had to say. When Meiju, a person he didn't trust, criticized his prized kick, it probably ticked him off at once. Probably. I fight my comrades in my own way. I won't take instructions from a Chinese man.
Then, if I say something, will you listen?
If it's about something other than my kick. At any rate, he didn't seem willing to listen to any advice regarding fighting. However, after reflexively saying something harsh to Zell, Oliver also seemed uncomfortable. He pretended to ignore Zell and went back to pretending to kick.
Okay, then why don't we spar for a bit?
What? Spar with you? Dude, she's an assassin. She's trained. I think? Oh my. He knew that. True enough, Zell was capable of moving with practiced motions, but even so, she was a frail woman. He thought of Zell as their leader, not someone whose role it was to fight. You just get in the way. I can't get serious against you.
Well, then I'm going to break your neck. Ha! Look who's talking. Okay, I'll give you a good thrashing so you can get serious.
What are you talking about? Stop, get hurt.
Oh my goodness, shall I go pop some popcorn? I do believe that this fight is actually going to be quite amusing.
Oh, yes. Shall we get a recorder? Now this will be a sight to see. We get to witness Hotarubi's combat skills. Yes! Zell slowly walked towards him. Her eyes were serious. She seriously intended to spar with Oliver. Oliver hesitated at first, but then he put on an irritated face and readied himself. I never learned how to go easy or stop my attacks before hitting.
Same here. This will be the first time I've ever acted out in violence to do anything but protect myself or kill.
Interesting. Let's get some good sparring in.
Here we go.
Zell bowed in the manner of Japanese martial arts. Oliver hurriedly imitated her. However, the next moment, Zell's pinpoint accurate strike was right before Oliver's eyes. Oh boy! Okay, let's go! Oh my god, yes! Oh! Oh god! Holy shit! Oh! Oh my god! Fuck! Oh! The time limit went so fast! If he didn't go easy, Zell would be seriously injured. It only took an instant for that assumption to be shattered to pieces. He took assault like a thunderstorm before he knew it, and ended up spread-eagled on the floor with his arms bent. He made a frail effort to counter, but couldn't even bring it to a draw. Oliver had lost completely.
Damn! Look. See my arm? It's thin, right? Not like a man's. Without taking special training over a long time, it couldn't display the same amount of force as a man's. That's why I aim for holes in the enemy's guard and vital areas. Even a woman's strength can be incredibly powerful.
Vital areas?
Even so, I wasn't able to defeat you instantly. It took that many moves. That's why I can't do this. No matter how much more I train, I won't be able to take down a guard in an instant. Only you can do that. We only have a hope if we combine your power with the techniques needed to hit vital areas. I can't save Father without relying on you, Oliver. But you won't even try to learn good form. What should I do?
You made her cry, damn it! Zell covered her face and ran away. Oliver stumbled from the floor to his feet with a shameful expression. Damn. When I was young, I was like you. The strength of my youth was my own pride. It would merely be a pain to learn any more. But one day, I learned my limitations. Because of the powerlessness caused by pride, my strength didn't measure up. And my little sister cried because of me. Men are such foolish animals. Are they pitiable creatures who cannot even rouse themselves until they make frail girls cry? You should cool your head. If you need my advice, then let me know whenever. Bang! Oliver kicked the concrete wall so hard it looked like his foot would plunge deep into it. Without moving from that position, he groaned in a voice that sounded like it was being forced out. Me? What was that? Tell me what's so bad about my kick, damn it! Please tell me, Meiju-sama, if you say that. Tell me, Meiju-san! Oliver's back shook slightly. He had cried out from the bottom of his soul. This is all I have. I can't do any clever stunts like Charles and Nina. This is all I can do. If If you that one thing can't help Zell, I couldn't bear it. Damn it. Damn it. Because I'm a fool, I made Zell cry. When she's falling apart from worrying about her dad all the time. Beat me into shape. If I fall apart and slump over, that means that was the best I'm capable of. Ah, youth. Very well. I will beat you into shape. Oh! Zell and Xiaolon were stealthily watching this in the corridor. Then when Oliver roused himself, they let out a quiet cheer.
Well said, Oliver. Good going!
Oh! Fake tis. Oh, you are. I would say that you're good, Ruby, but my god, you are bad.
Okay, let's leave the rest to Meiji-san. Now I've got to give my all.
Everyone was training hard. You are evil, Zell. But oh my god, it fucking worked. Everyone was training hard to fill their roles for the plan. Even Zell had a role. Now it was time for Zell to start her special training. The arranged time was drawing near. Xiaolon was an observer. She had to follow Zell around. However, she had no idea where Zell would be training or what she would be doing.
Everyone said they thought that I could do it, but I'm really uneasy.
Oh? What are they making you do?
I'm not confident at all. Maybe I just got a bit too excited when they all spurred me on.
What? Could you at least give me some sort of explanation? I've been in the dark for the entirety of this little exercise. I need to know at least one detail about the plan that you've got in mind. The two of them left the city. The sun shone brightly, baking the asphalt. It was probably just about noon. Also, random thing, did anybody else ever used to say asphalt growing up whenever you were a kid just so you could say ass cursing? I kinda did that. The girl's destination was Club Primavera. Oh! Ooh! I wonder why. Is she gonna tell Rose... During the daytime, behind-the-scenes work such as cleaning and restocking took place in Club Primavera. For a club of ladies of the evening, daytime was bedtime.
Long time no see, Zell. It's been far too long, Madame Rose. Don't worry about it anymore. More importantly, I'm glad. So now you know what you need to do. Madame Rose.
Don't get any closer. I haven't decided to trust you, okay?
Stop that, Wayne-kun! She's my friend. Boss, I apologize for the trouble I've caused.
I'm not your boss, scat! Scat? Oh. Were you telling her to scatter, or were you literally calling her Behave, Wayne. Wayne made a curt gesture for her to go away. Even though, if he still considered Zell to be a hitman, letting her go away wouldn't do much to protect Rose. Rose understood this pubescent boy part of him and giggled. Zell belatedly realized that yes, this was the guy Oliver was trying to imitate and giggle too.
And you're Xiaolon-chan, from Meiji-san's group?
Yeah. She bowed in Japanese fashion, but she was exactly like an unsociable and suspicious cat. Hold up there. You say away too, mean of the GDS.
Stop that, Wayne-kun! You're not getting fed tonight! She's Meiji-san's guest. You can go over there. Go in the corner.
After watching Wayne leave grumpily, Zell and Rose broke out laughing together this time. At that moment, the grand piano on the main hall stage began making soft sounds.
That person is... She's the one who taught me how to sing. She used to be a real teacher, so she was really good at it.
Oh?
Miss Amanda. Long time no see.
You!
I've heard all about it. I thought that there was something more to this kid's story, but it sounds like you've had it rough. Hotarubi, the female Japanese killer who works secretly in Chinatown. Caleb and Miguel knew your name too. I'm ashamed. Not at all. Caleb thanked you. You know Zong, the hitman from Bao Xingbang, whom you finished off once? Caleb wanted him so much he put out a reward. So I'm willing to call it even in exchange for teaching fees from this. Thank you very much.
Oh!
You sang well at that Chiba restaurant. You have talent. However, if you want to become good enough to fool people, you need to be prepared to practice till you cough up blood.
Oh, Amanda sounds strict, but she teaches really well. Good luck, Zell!
Yes, ma'am. Amanda-san, I look forward to learning from you.
So she's gonna learn how to sing? Is that to distract people?
So, would you mind letting me hear your voice for a bit?
Her personal lesson with Amanda began. Xiaolon was given soft drinks and snacks, but she wouldn't eat a bite, possibly because they were being offered by enemies.
None of it's poison, so feel free to dig in.
Hello there.
Wait a minute, do you speak Chinese? Oh, I recognize you, Bazonga girl.
Xiaolon refused in a prickly manner. Rose giggled at her over-seriousness. Xiaolon herself was now completely lost. First pickpocketing training, then slingshot training, then martial arts training. That much she could still understand, but why singing training? She finally understood and clapped her hands.
I see. So that's what it is. This would be necessary for getting over one of what they call the 3 hurdles.
The third hurdle: how to sneak into a members-only high-class restaurant. That restaurant offered live performances from guest musicians. Since the 4 wandering dogs were good with musical instruments, and Zell in particular had a beautiful singing voice, they'd grown famous in the old downtown districts.
I see, so that's what it is.
However, Wong's Castle was still a high-class restaurant. They would need considerable qualifications. It was a bit hard to imagine that a female singer from the old downtown district and her band would be invited to a place like that.
Still, I'm not sure if this is interesting or insane. Hey, Meryl, that's one crazy plan you thought up.
If it goes neatly, it'd be perfect. But will it really run smoothly?
I think so. I think the odds are much better than starting a feud with the Caleb family with only 7 people. Well, that might be true.
Now that you mention it, I heard there's going to be a feud between us and the GDS, but is that true?
Oh, yeah. I heard from Claudia, too. Sounds like the businessmen are abandoning Primavera and plan to team up with the GDS. Lately, I've been thinking about what Primavera's role should be.
It's to protect our countrymen from enemies, right?
I prefer you made it cool and say it's to guide our countrymen or something. At first, it was like Stella said, to protect our countrymen from enemies.
They rose up against the violence of the Caleb family, protecting the city folk. The city folk welcomed this and supported Primavera.
After that, our goal became what Meryl said, to guide our countrymen.
They bought up the special offers windows, got rid of unfair exploitation, and raised wages for low-level laborers. The city folk welcomed this, and they supported Primavera.
Next, I tried to guide our countrymen so that they could regain the Japanese lifestyle and culture. But they didn't support us.
Everything was working well until that shit.
That's not true. A lot of people understood.
Well, I guess that's just what it's like for poor people. Thanks for protecting us. Thanks for giving us more money. Now, help us to regain our culture. Huh? Who cares?
We want you to buy some real soy sauce even though it's expensive. Quit joking around. Die.
All of us Japanese are poor. Those poor people are only grateful for 2 things. For protecting them, for giving them things. Only those 2.
Just like babies.
If so, then I've been mistaken. It might be a little harsh, but with the war and the disaster wiping the slate clean, the Japanese are the same as babies.
Well then. To protect a baby and give it milk all the time is a parent's responsibility. It's affection. By the way, how's that going, Richard? Making them learn a lot of things is also affection. But if you force it on a baby without considering their age and ability, it's no different than abuse. No matter how necessary a thing might be, humans can't learn it until they reach a suitable age. If a baby can't even crawl, then it's too soon to start multiplication or handwriting or piano lessons.
If you force that on them, then it's neither affection nor teaching anymore. It's just egoism. There's supposed to be a proper age for learning things. I must have been wrong for forcing that on the Japanese, who'd just been dragged back to square one 2 to 3 years earlier when they lost the war. Rose.
If Rose had a sin, then it may have been that she over-glorified the Japanese race. Her father, a foreigner, felt a deep yearning for Japan, which was a foreign country for him. That may have caused him to over-glorify it at times. It wouldn't have been strange if young Rose had soaked that in unknowingly over time. Tokyo, the capital of Japan, was once called Edo, and was a prominent large city on a worldwide scale. In that place, large numbers of people lived their lives by helping each other, and that was the sign of the Japanese spirit of cooperation, it was said. However, who knows if it really was a spirit of cooperation driven by neighborly love. While Edo was a massive city, it was also extremely overcrowded. Neighborly relations were complicated and deep. And yet, you couldn't move to a new house whenever you liked, like you can today. It was like having a class breakup in the first grade of elementary school that continued into middle school, high school, college, and beyond, maintaining the same community until you died. If you became unpopular or the bullied kid, you sometimes wouldn't get out of that pit for the rest of your life.
Hey, fucking men!
Maybe that environment's why people strove for a mutually supporting community, formed pseudo-family ties, and guaranteed equal status for each other. It was an era without scientific investigations. If a terrible crime occurred and there was no evidence, you might be treated as the culprit simply because you were suspicious. When that happened, people who were isolated and disliked within the community probably served as convenient sacrifices. In fact, among the famous crimes with false accusations the early Showa period, many resulted in isolated members of the community being sacrificed for various reasons. In other words, in the Edo era, a spirit of cooperation with your community was necessary for one's own protection. Or, put another way, it wasn't necessarily true that the spirit of cooperation beginning in that era was caused by feelings of friendship.
It may be that the Japanese don't really have a spirit of cooperation. If so, then what I'm doing is definitely cheap talk. An idealistic daydream from an optimistic adolescent girl. If so, then I have to wake up quickly. I have to see reality quickly. What is it our countrymen need right now? Safety and money. Just those two things. Then I'll go back to the basics. It might be best to concentrate on those two things alone.
This whole time, Zell's lesson with Amanda had been continuing on the stage in the hall. Zell's voice definitely seemed to hold a talent that could shine like a diamond if polished. Rose watched with distant eyes.
Those kids are the next generation of the Japanese. In other words, they're our children. What should we protect? What should we leave behind? What should we pass down to make those kids happiest? I don't know about stuff like that. What's needed in an era is up to the people of that era to decide. Even if we pass something down to them with our sense of value, who knows if they'll be happy with it?
If it has to be something, then I'd say it's the right to choose for themselves.
Huh?
Rose turned around with a truly surprised look on her face. Stella didn't think she'd said something particularly important. She just chimed in to fit the flow of the conversation.
Stella, what did you just say?
Sorry, I was just talking at random.
That wasn't random! Say it again! What did you just say?
I was talking about what it is our children in the future want. I said it's for them to decide, not us. They have a right to decide what it is they truly want, or something.
Even Stella didn't really know what she was saying anymore. However, Rose looked at her as though she'd found something incredibly important.
Still, I get that. When I was a kid, the clothes my parents got me were always so uncool. I always wished I could make them let me choose my own clothes, at least. Yeah, I hear you. That sort of thing did happen, didn't it?
Thank you, Stella. Meryl. I was a little confused, but now I finally know the direction to move in. I just now thought that my own selfish ideals were just trying to force clothes I like on my children.
Development!
Ideals forced upon you by someone else aren't worth crap. I'm done. Done with those immature ideals. Thanks you two. I won't be lost anymore. Huh.
As I listened to this tale, I remembered a story I'd heard from my mother. We in the younger generation don't know much about Madame Rose. She's not on the net, and you won't find her name mentioned in wikis. However, my mother's generation had heard from their parents. They had heard Madame Rose's name. According to my mother, many people who knew Tokyo during that time knew of Madame Rose as well. However, they avoided talking about her. In fact, when I asked my father about Madame Rose, he walked away, looking upset and refused to talk to me.
Oh!
And refused to talk to me. Why? Madame Rose is the savior of her Japanese countrymen. She'd been praised as such since the formation of Primavera, but her reputation eventually changed. The Soy Sauce War. The war in which Madame Rose tried to regain Japanese pride and culture, only to be betrayed by her countrymen. That was when Primavera slowly began to change its focus. I'm sorry to Madame Jeanne, who's been telling me this story at such great length. But in fact, I've already heard more or less how this long tale ends. In the year 1948, Primavera withdrew its position of prioritizing mutual aid between countrymen. Primavera, which had been viewed as a group of heroes by the city folk, ended up degrading into a violent organization that was even called a revival of the Caleb family. My mother told me that the city folk were extremely disappointed and shocked by the fall of Madame Rose, who was once called their savior. She wasn't called a villain, and wasn't called a savior either. The people chose not to have an opinion about her, historically speaking. Speaking Madame Rose's name became taboo, and everyone refused to speak of her. Oh my god! Then in 1950, 2 years after the world of this tale, a single girl rose up to defeat Primavera, gained the support of the city folk, and brought down Madame Rose. That girl was Amakawa Jun, or Madame Jeanne. I don't know what this person wants to leave behind about Madame Rose.
What? Wait a minute! Wait a minute! Huh? But Wayne is... What? Wait a minute! Wait a minute! Did Rose? No. Did she turn herself into a martyr?
I thought, maybe I was selected as a fellow Japanese person from their future. Maybe I'm being asked to give my opinion of Madame Rose. In that case, what is my opinion of Madame Rose now? It's probably too early to draw any conclusions. Not until Madame Jeanne gets to the part where she defeats Madame Rose by her own hand. If I was forced to give my opinion at this point, then I might say that she was a sad idealist who was born too soon. Madame Rose was wounded in the Soy Sauce War and completely lost faith in their fellow countrymen. If that incident hadn't occurred, I'm sure she wouldn't have strayed down the wrong path.
Huh. Like, Unless Madame Jun is actually Rose, and they intentionally, like, turned her into a martyr, that would be one hell of a twist. The hall of a luxury hotel in City 22 was filled with the camera flashes of many Chinese journalists. The flashes were directed at two people, a high official from the Chinese occupying forces and a suited man who appeared to be American, slightly past middle age. In the pictures of their handshakes were all taken, they sat down on sofas chatting through interpreters. The high official was Major General Zhao, head of the GHQ's Department for the Strategic Promotion of Culture and the Arts. The name of that department may be long, but put simply, it dealt with culture for the masses, such as movies, music, and plays. In this pre-internet age, newspapers, magazines, movies, and music were extremely important as a means of propaganda for the masses. America and China raced each other to build and screen propaganda movies for free. In this era, Japanese children who had no leisurely activities often visited propaganda theaters of that sort. That area was America's specialty, but China was actively moving into it so that they wouldn't get left behind. This chatting American was a movie director, Steven Spielberg! Director Kazan, what are your thoughts after your stay in Japan? To be honest, I was quite surprised. I heard Tokyo sustained incredible damage during the 1944 disaster, but look how far it's been rebuilt now. Can we get your thoughts on the restoration of the Chinese military areas in particular? Nearly all the reporters were Chinese. It was a natural question. America and China were putting their names on the line, racing to rebuild Japan. They wanted more than anything for an American director to praise the reconstruction brought about by China. I was able to see several Chinese military district cities as well. They all had wonderful modern cityscapes. Okay, Director Kazan gives high praise to the reconstruction of Chinese districts! What did you think about the China-American Friendship Film Festival? It was a wonderful cultural experience. I think it would be wonderful if such an experience led peace between the two countries, if not the whole world. Also, I would like to express my thanks towards Mr. Zhao for proposing such a wonderful experience. They were covered with relentless flashes again. Then the reporters showered them with questions once more. As they did, Director Kazan clapped his hands as though he just remembered something. Oh, yes. As for things that left an impression, I've got one for you. There was a night when I wanted to be alone. I went out for a walk and stumbled upon a certain bar. At first, I just thought it was a strangely energetic place, but I'll never forget the songstress I met there. Songstress? Who was it? Which bar? Well, I was walking about at random, so I can't remember where the bar was. Still, I'll never forget that girl's voice. It shocked me to think I would bump into such an angelic voice so far from my home country. The director has told me this story several times, and said that he'd like to meet that girl again. If possible, I'd like to see her once more before leaving Japan. But I just can't remember where that bar was. When I heard about this, it got me thinking. Just the perfect romantic movie-like episode for a director to bump into. Huh. He must have probably heard, Oh! Behind the meeting hall stood Meiju and Xiaolun. I see. So you could use that. It's common for Wang Yinghan's restaurant to host guests who've been big in the news lately. As a man fond of new things, he can't take his eyes off newcomers who have broken into the public scene. This had been a farce set up by Meiju. Clap for Meiju! A strategy to give some weight to the Wandering Dog's musical activities by having them referenced by a famous movie director visiting Japan. And the director was appearing alongside a GHQ big shot. The Chinese reporters would probably take a hint and push this energetically. I found the angel you fell for at first sight. Oh my god, really? I can't believe it! Of course it was all a farce. Neither of them had gone into the sort of downtown pub that the Wandering Dogs performed in, much less met with Zell. The Major General, after motioning for everyone to welcome them with applause, invited the Wandering Dogs forward with Zell at the head. Oh! The reporters stood up one after another, showering with applause and camera flashes. Of course, the standing ovation was also part of the setup. The normal reporters who got caught up in the farce probably thought that some incredibly huge newcomer had appeared.
Meiju-sama, isn't this a little over the top?
This much is just fine. It's Major General Zhao's specialty.
Oh, how incredible! Think that I'd get to meet you again!
It's an honor to meet you, Director Kazan.
I'll never forget the night I heard you sing. This is a miracle! Everyone, allow me to introduce them. This is the roaming band, the Wandering Cats. They were all orphans who lost their relatives in the war and disaster. However, they gathered together amidst the rubble, formed bonds of friendship by overcoming many trials, and formed a four-man group. So you went through all that? Incredible. Now I see how you were able to put so much spirit into your music. Your singing. War. Disaster. And I can imagine how much you Japanese boys and girls must be suffering in present Japan.
It's true that we've suffered from misfortune many times. However, the true misfortune is when you let the misery get into your heart, and you lose the ability to find happiness. We use music to find a tiny ray of light peeking through the clouds of misfortune. We keep moving towards that light. We believe that we'll be able to find happiness eventually, if we keep walking forward.
Zell's splendid Chinese speech earned big rounds of applause from the reporters. The director clapped unrestrainedly too, then put a hand on Zell's shoulder and posed as though recommending her talent. A new singer appears with high praise from the Director Kazan. That would probably be plastered across all the papers tonight.
What the hell is my assassin doing? What the fuck?
I don't know. Director Kazan was a Greek, born in 1909 in Istanbul of the Ottoman Empire. However, in 1912, the First Balkan War broke out. The Balkan League, which included his fatherland Greece, declared war against the Ottoman Empire. At that instant, he and his family in Istanbul became members of an enemy nation. His family escaped from Istanbul and immigrated to America. They would remain settled there. The shock of his familiar hometown suddenly becoming enemy territory probably had a considerable effect on young Kazan. It isn't certain whether that had a noticeable impact on his later works, but the possibility can't be denied. Later on, he moved into the realm of theater and then movies, before making his Hollywood debut in 1944 with A Tree Grows in Brooklyn. Then in 1947, he released the much commented upon and controversial Gentleman's Agreement. This work was well praised, receiving the awards for Best Picture, Best Directing, and Best Supporting Actress in the 20th Academy Awards. The man's name was Elia Kazan. Director Elia Kazan, who would later make East of Eden, a movie which would be in the spotlight for having James Dean's first leading role. How's life in Japan been for you all? Is the restoration by the occupying forces helping to bring back the Japanese lifestyle? The misfortune of the war is over now. We'll do all we can to save our neighbors.
Thank you very much for your reassuring words.
Kazan certainly hadn't decided to join on this farce because money had changed hands. He was Jewish himself. In that era, they had it rough even in America. Because of that, he was more sensitive than anyone regarding the taboo of racial discrimination, and he took it seriously. Damn. Even the Academy Award-winning Gentleman's Agreement took up the issue of discrimination against Jews. A certain writer pretended to be Jewish to gather materials for an article. As soon as he did, the people in the city changed suddenly. All sorts of people began silently rejecting the main character who was claiming to be Jewish. It was a work that fiercely attacked that unwritten law, that gentleman's agreement of racism. Because he was that sort of person, he was probably very understanding of how Japanese Americans suffered in wartime America. After the outbreak of the Pacific War, Americans of Japanese descent became members of an enemy nation overnight. That was similar to his own past. It wouldn't be odd at all if he sympathized with people of Japanese descent who had their assets confiscated and who were thrown into concentration camps. For all these reasons, one could probably say it was natural for him to sympathize with Japanese people in this era. When he was told Japanese orphans have formed a band and are making a name for themselves downtown, so could you please support them, Kazan couldn't refuse. Sadly, racism is still prominent in the world. People who deny this are simply ignoring that silent gentleman's agreement. Even my American Japanese people were the pitiable targets of discrimination. It is a disgrace for a civilized nation. Should we understand the events within Gentleman's Agreement to be a real problem in America, rather than fiction? That is correct. As an American, I found it necessary to protest those shameful crimes against humanity. I like this Kazan guy.
My. Unfortunately, he's getting quite passionate about this.
Alongside the director speaking fervently about the problem of racial discrimination, the Major General was chuckling. He may have been trying to address the issue of racism, but the Chinese reporters would probably make an article about how American director decries America as a racist country! The purpose of this press conference wasn't just to give Zell, the others, a famous director's seal of approval. It was also part of the propaganda war waged by the Chinese military department for the strategic promotion of culture and the arts. Uh-oh. This incident would cause great trouble for Elia Kazan later on. Because of his relationship with a Chinese military official and the articles from this time, in addition to his history as a former communist, he would be suspected of being a communist by the House Committee of Un-American Activities in 1952. Is that an actual thing? This was right during the middle of the Red Scare. America was strengthening its opposition to the communist camp and overwhelmed with attempts at the social eradication of its sympathizers. Several movie makers had already been branded as communists and expelled from the world of film production. He probably wanted to remain a filmmaker. As part of a plea bargain to remove suspicion from himself, Kazan sold out 11 other filmmakers by condemning them as communists. Oh! 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 The betrayal of this man, who was loved as the socially aware and sensible filmmaker who created Gentleman's Agreement, left filmmakers deeply disappointed. That case would remain as a blot on his history for the rest of his life. Damn. Even in 1998, when he was approaching his final years, that blot hadn't disappeared. In that year, during the ceremony in which he earned an honorary Academy Award, not only was the applause sparse, there were even demonstrations opposing his being granted the award. Was he a filmmaker worthy of respect or not? We can only leave his appraisal to the filmmakers who came after him. However, it would probably be hard to evaluate him unless you understood that everyday racism that covered the world at that time. Because he knew racism more than anyone and feared it more than anyone, he must have feared the brand of communist in America at that time far better than anyone. Or, at that time better than anyone. In that case, let's hear that angelic singing once more, before the director leaves Japan tomorrow. Let's have the gentlemen of the press join in and enjoy the musical world of Wandering Cats. After receiving an introduction like that, there was nothing else to worry about. From the start, Oliver, Charles, and Nina's skill with instruments as well as Zell's singing had been splendid. The reporter stood up even before the hired applauders and greeted the performers with a massive standing ovation. Starting that night, the local papers from the cities around City 22 started talking about the four all the time. The angelic voice amidst the war orphans. Band of boys and girls highly praised by director Kazan. Of course, that was also distributed in Japanese versions, and it became the only topic of conversation among the Japanese of Tokyo for a while. With this, everything was ready. They were the Wandering Cats, the big new band of boys and girls praised by director Kazan and recommended by Major General Zhao. They were more than popular enough to be asked as guests to Wong's restaurant. You're going to fall directly into the palm of our hands, you frickin' bastard. Okay, I'm going to have to end it there. I know this is a relatively shorter episode, but oh my god. Needless to say, the allergies are kicking my ass and I'm not going to push it.
Especially because I did that voice for so goddamn long for that minute of time.
Alright, the plan is in place, and I still have no goddamn idea what the entirety of the plan itself is. I'm just going to assume Zell's a distraction, that's how they're going to get in there to begin with. Nina and Charles are going to get the key, and then Oliver is the one that's going to knock out the guard to get in there. How the fuck are they planning on escaping is the question. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching, and I will definitely see all of you guys in the next video. Good lord.